Thanksgiving used to mean something. The smells, the cold air, the way the house filled with voices that sounded like home. This year felt different. I didn't notice it at first, not until that morning when I realized I was counting down the hours. I'd been drowning in work, project deadlines, client revisions, a rooftop design that refused to come together. But today was supposed to be the pause, the return to normal. A seat at the old wooden table in my dad's cabin, firewood stacked outside, my brother's annoying laugh bouncing off the kitchen tiles. So I texted him, "What time should I come by?" His reply was casual, "4's good. See you then." And I believed him. I left my apartment just before 3:30, took the long route through Pine Hollow. The trees were bare now, branches like fingers against the grey sky. I turned on the heater but kept the window cracked. I don't know why. I guess I wanted to feel something. I pictured the table. Blake carving the turkey like he always did, acting like it was brain surgery. Dad pouring cider into those ugly mugs we never replaced. I smiled, but under it something buzzed. Not fear, not dread, just a little too quiet in my chest. I pushed it down, told myself it was just the stress talking. I was going home. That's all that mattered. The driveway was empty. No cars, no music from the kitchen. Just trees and silence and smoke curling from the chimney like a lie. I sat in the car for a moment, hand still on the keys. Then I got out. The cold bit through my jacket, sharper than I remembered. I walked to the door, knocked once, then again, nothing. And then my phone buzzed. A message from Dad, "Thought you were going to be late." I stared at the message for a few seconds, then read it again. "Thought you were going to be late. Not where are you? Not are you okay? Just a passive assumption, a shrug through text. Before I could even type a response, another one popped up. This time from Blake. We couldn't keep waiting. The words hit harder than they should have. Not because they were cruel, but because they were so easy. So indifferent. I opened the door. No one had locked it. The cabin creaked like it always did, that familiar wood against wood sound, but it was quieter than I remembered. Not silent, just still, like the aftermath of something. The table was already cleared. Not fully, just enough to say, "You missed it. Half a turkey, some mashed potatoes already cold, a few plates stacked on the edge, forks pointing toward nothing." That was the moment. That exact moment, standing in that doorway, my breath still clouding in the cold air behind me when I realized. They didn't wait. They had all been here. My dad, Blake, probably his wife, maybe even Aunt Rachel. They'd eaten, laughed, passed dishes, talked about football and weather and life. Without me, no one had texted, no one had checked in. They just assumed that I'd be late, that it didn't matter, that I was optional. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just turned around and walked back to the car. The wind had picked up, leaves scraping across the gravel like whispers. I sat there for a while, hands on the steering wheel, unmoving. My phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. I already knew who it was. And I didn't want to hear it. Eventually I typed one sentence, just one. "I guess I'll find something else to do." Then I drove. No destination, just away. I didn't even know where I was going. I just kept driving. Past the last gas station on Deer Hollow Road. Past the shuttered antique store with the crooked open sign that hadn't flipped in 3 years. I didn't feel anything. No anger yet. Just something flat, like I'd been muted from the inside out. Eventually, I pulled into a park on the edge of town. Not a special one, just a clearing with a few benches, a gravel trail, and a wooden shelter that probably hosted a dozen forgotten birthday parties. I killed the engine, stepped out, and walked toward the farthest bench. The wind had teeth now, colder than I'd dressed for, but I didn't care. I sat down, hands in my jacket pockets, eyes on the trees that looked like they were bracing themselves for winter. Everything felt suspended, not broken, not yet, but like a thread stretched too tight. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it, and again, still ignored it. Eventually, I looked. A missed call from Dad, a voicemail, and then a message from Blake. Mum's really upset. You should come back. Upset. That word made me laugh. Just one breath of disbelief, but it escaped before I could stop it. She was upset. They'd eaten without me. No heads up, no call, no hey, where are you? Just the meal, the photos I wasn't in, the laughter I didn't get to hear. And now she was upset. I stared at the message for too long. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I thought about typing something sharp, something that would punch through their guilt like glass. But I didn't trust myself to get it right. So I did something cleaner, more final. I blocked them both. Not out of rage, not even out of pain. It just felt like the only way I could take something back. Control, dignity, whatever you want to call it. The sun was slipping now, bleeding orange and lavender across the sky. Somewhere behind the trees, the last of Thanksgiving was winding down. People were washing dishes, laughing over pie, falling asleep on couches, and I sat on that bench, alone, wondering how a day meant for family could feel so thoroughly hollow. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was sharp, like frost in the lungs. I tried to distract myself, thought about work, about that rooftop design I still hadn't figured out, about the unfinished emails waiting for replies, but my mind kept going back to the table, to the way the chairs must have scraped the floor, the sound of forks tapping plates, the way Dad probably told that story about the time Blake got locked out of the cabin in just a towel. Did they laugh? Did they notice my empty seat? I doubted it. They'd always assumed I'd show up late, be a little distant, a little distracted, and I had been for years, always trying to make it up to them. The extra gifts at Christmas, the long drives home even when work was crushing, the way I'd rearranged deadlines to make it to Blake's engagement dinner, even though no one asked. They never noticed. Or worse, maybe they did, and it didn't matter. Eventually, I got too cold to keep sitting there. My fingers were stiff, my neck sore. I walked back to the car. The inside was freezing, but I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, still, the kind of still that makes you feel more tired than movement ever could. When I finally got home, I didn't turn on the lights. I tossed my keys on the counter, dropped onto the couch, and stared into the dark. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail from Dad. I hesitated, then hit play. His voice was low, not shaky, just slow, careful. Ethan, we didn't mean to leave you out. We just thought you weren't coming. We didn't think you'd make it. The food was getting cold, and Blake said, "Look, I'm sorry. Please call me. I didn't know what I expected." An apology that sounded like a real one, maybe. Not an explanation wrapped in guilt. We thought you weren't coming. The more I repeated that phrase in my head, the worse it sounded. Not, we were worried. Not, we called but couldn't reach you. Just a decision made in my absence. About my absence. I let the message play out, deleted it without saving. Then I turned off my phone completely. I needed a break. Not from technology. From them. From being the one who always had to forgive first. For the next few days, I avoided everything. Didn't open work emails. Didn't answer group texts. Let messages pile up like unopened mail. I knew what they'd say. Knew the tone, the hollow guilt, the subtle pressure to just get over it, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't even sure I ever would be. The silence between us grew longer with each hour. A canyon that had always existed, but now I could finally see its full depth. And then exactly 3 days later, I got another message. From Dad again. Just 4 words. Can we meet soon? No apology. No explanation, no warmth. Just a summons. Like I was being called to a meeting. Not a mending. I stared at the message. Felt nothing. Then everything. Anger. Sadness. Something close to surrender. I didn't reply right away. I sat with it. Let it hang there, unresolved. I thought about how long I'd been trying to hold the family together with one hand, always adjusting, always compensating, and how quickly they'd let go the second it got inconvenient. Would talking change anything? Would seeing them in person bring clarity, or just more weight? I didn't know, but I knew I needed to find out. Not for them, for me. We agreed to meet at a small cafe just outside town, the kind of place with chalkboard menus, recycled wood counters, and baristas who looked like they belonged in indie bands. I'd worked on the architecture sketches when it opened years ago. That made it easier, more neutral. No memories tied to the walls. Just a table, 4 chairs, a quiet corner near the window. I arrived early. Not on purpose. My nerves didn't give me much of a choice. I sat down, didn't order anything, just watched the steam rise from other people's mugs, conversations happening all around me, low and unbothered. It made everything I was feeling seem more absurd. Then I saw him. Richard, my dad, grey coat, collared shirt, the same slight limp he'd had since the ankle break. He spotted me, gave a tight nod, and walked over. He looked older, maybe just more tired. He sat down across from me, rested his hands on the table, fingers laced like he was preparing for a confession. We didn't speak for a while. Eventually, he broke the silence. "You're mad," I blinked. "That was it? That was the opening move?" "Yeah," I said. "You could say that." He nodded, looking down. "I should have waited. We should have. It wasn't planned like that. You just assumed I wouldn't come." He flinched slightly. Not dramatically, just enough. The food was getting cold. "Blake said you were probably still stuck working, so Blake gets to make that call now." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I texted you. You said 4 o'clock was fine. I got there at 3:57. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathed in like he was bracing for something. "I know, and I am sorry. Truly, it wasn't about you not mattering. He trailed off. I waited, but nothing came. Just silence. Again. "You didn't even call," I said. "Not when you started eating. Not when you noticed I wasn't there. Just nothing. And then when I walked in, there was nothing left but scraps." He looked up then. "I didn't realize how much it would hurt you. Why not?" He didn't answer that. Just looked away again, jaw tight. I felt my chest tighten. I hated this. The awkwardness. The forced softness. The way he was trying to minimize it, without realizing he was doing exactly that. Then the cafe door opened. Blake, of course. He walked in like this was no big deal. Like this was just a check-in. Like I hadn't been trying to pick myself off the floor for the past 3 days. He saw us, gave a slight wave, and walked over. "Hey," he said, sliding into the seat next to our dad. No apology, no warmth, just that same detached tone he always used when things got uncomfortable. "So what's going on?" I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "You tell me, Blake. You're the one who decided dinner didn't need to include me." He tilted his head, annoyed already. We waited as long as we could. The food was ready. "You're late to everything, Ethan." It wasn't personal, there it was. The dismissal wrapped in logic. "It is personal," I said, voice flat. "Because it's a pattern, I'm the one you leave out. The one who has to prove over and over again that I still belong in this family." Blake rolled his eyes. "This again?" I looked at Richard, expecting him to step in. But he didn't. He just stared down at the table. "It wasn't just dinner," I said. "It was Thanksgiving. It was the one day I counted on seeing you all, no matter how busy things got. I've moved meetings for this. I've driven through snowstorms. I've shown up, even when no one asked me to." Blake leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms. "Look, you weren't exactly easy to plan around. You figured I didn't matter enough to check in." Blake opened his mouth, then closed it again. I could see him trying to recalibrate. "It's not that deep. That did it." I stood up. The chair scraped against the tile. Heads turned. "I didn't care." "You always say that," I said. "Every time something hurts, every time I bring it up, it's not that deep." "But it is. It is exactly that deep." Blake looked embarrassed now. He didn't like being called out in public. "We just want to move on," he muttered. "No need to make this a thing." I looked at Richard again. "Is that what you want too?" He shook his head slowly. "I want to fix this," he said, "but I don't know how. You start by not pretending it was a misunderstanding." The silence hung like smoke. I picked up my coat. "You know, I've spent years trying to keep up. To earn my spot at a table I should have never had to earn in the first place." Blake looked away. Richard looked like he might cry. "I'm tired," I said, "of being the easy one to exclude, of letting it slide because it's family, of showing up just to be invisible." No one stopped me as I walked toward the door. No one said, "Wait." I stepped outside into the cold. The sun was already low. Everything felt grey, quiet, almost too quiet. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about walking away. The first few days after the cafe were oddly calm, not peaceful, not freeing, just quiet in a way that felt too big to name. I didn't hear from Blake. I didn't expect to. He didn't do follow-ups, just conclusions, and our conversation at the cafe had been, in his mind, concluded. Richard, though, he tried. A couple of texts, a voicemail. Nothing heavy, no big speech. Just a soft ping in the dark, like someone trying to tap lightly on a locked door. But I didn't open it. I couldn't, not yet. Maybe not ever. There was too much static still buzzing in my chest. I went back to work. Slowly answered some client emails, reviewed renderings, drank too much coffee. I thought staying busy would help. But Thanksgiving stayed with me like an echo. Not loud, but persistent. Every time I tried to sleep, I saw the half-eaten turkey, the empty chairs, the unread text, Blake's voice. "It's not that deep. I didn't talk about it. Not to co-workers. Not to friends." There wasn't much to say that didn't sound dramatic or self-pitying. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't even want validation. I wanted them to have cared. And the fact that they hadn't, not enough, not in time, that was the part I couldn't let go. Until one Thursday night, a week and a half later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something told me to pick up. It was Richard. "Hey," he said, his voice raw around the edges. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from." I said nothing. Just listened. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we handled things. He paused, took a breath. I didn't realize how far I'd let things drift, how much I'd relied on. Blake's version of you, the one where you're always too busy, too detached, and I didn't stop to check if that version was even fair. Still, I said nothing. He kept going. I hurt you. I see that now. I can't change that day, but I don't want to lose you over it. And I'm not asking you to pretend nothing happened. I just hope we can talk, really talk, not at a cafe, not between texts. I closed my eyes. Let the silence stretch. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't some grand speech with violins playing in the background. But it sounded honest. More than that, it sounded like effort. I don't know, I said finally. My voice came out lower than I meant. I don't know if I'm ready to forgive you, or Blake, or any of it. You don't have to be ready, he said quickly. You don't owe us anything. Another pause. But if there's still a door open, even just a crack, I'd like to find my way through it. That was when I felt it. The beginning of something? Not healing, not yet, but the space for it. The possibility. We made a plan to meet. Not at the cabin, not at the cafe. Just a park bench. Neutral ground. The same one I'd sat on when everything fell apart. This time, it didn't feel cold. We talked for a while. No timelines, no ultimatums. Just truth, just a quiet kind of honesty that had been missing for years. Richard didn't justify what happened. He didn't throw Blake under the bus. He didn't ask for pity. He just told me he missed me and that he'd do better. And for the first time, I believed him. Not fully, not blindly, but enough to let him stay seated across from me. Enough to listen. Weeks passed. The holidays came and went. Blake never reached out. And I didn't chase him. I stopped trying to hold up the whole weight of the family just to keep it from collapsing. Let it rest. Let it fall where it wanted to. I sent Richard a message on Christmas Eve. Just 2 words. Thank you, he replied with a photo of an empty seat at the cabin table. It'll be here when you're ready. I didn't know if I ever would be. But this time it was different. This time they waited. Story 2. I've always been the kind of person who trusts too easily. Loyal to a fault, as my sister used to say. Maybe that's why it hit so hard when my best friend, Lucas, stabbed me in the back and smiled while doing it. Lucas and I met during our freshman year at Purdue. 2 broke computer science kids hustling through late-night projects, inhaling gas station hot dogs like they were gourmet meals. He was 21 back then, I was 20. We were an unlikely duo, me, the introvert who spoke fluent Python but struggled with small talk, and him, the smooth talker who could charm a vending machine into giving free snacks. But somehow we clicked. We joked that I'd build the tech and he'd sell it to the world, and for a while that worked. Over the next decade we stayed close. Life moved, jobs came and went, but our shared dream never died. Most weekends you'd find us in dive diners sketching ideas on napkins, debating everything from cybersecurity loopholes to UI color palettes. Then, 2 years ago, we hit gold. It started as a rough sketch on a diner placemat, an AI tool that could detect and neutralize cyber threats before they ever made it into your system. The concept was ambitious, bordering on insane, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I built it. While Lucas kept networking, I went into full hermit mode. My apartment looked like a hacker's cave, monitors everywhere, post-it notes littered across every surface, code running non-stop. I barely slept. But after months of obsessive fine-tuning, the software was ready. The core algorithm was mine. Every line of code, every model refinement mine. Lucas kept saying, we were on the verge of something game-changing. This is it, bro. This is our legacy, he'd tell me, pacing my living room like a startup founder on launch day. I believed him. Then one day he vanished. No texts, no calls, nothing. At first, I brushed it off. He was the social one, always bouncing around meetings and coffee chats. But days turned into weeks. Messages were left on read. I figured something must have come up. Family stuff, maybe? I even worried something bad had happened. Until I walked into a downtown cafe and saw his smug face on the cover of a tech magazine. There he was, Lucas Hayes, age 32, visionary CEO of Aegis Mind, posing like he just reinvented fire. The headline? Meet the man who's changing cybersecurity forever. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. I bought the magazine on instinct, my hands shaking as I flipped through it. Every sentence was like a slap. He had launched the company we built together, using the idea I slaved over, the code I wrote. But guess whose name wasn't in the article? Not once. Not a footnote. Not a shout-out to my brilliant co-founder. Nada, I called him. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. That night I dug deeper. Every blog post, every interview, same story. Lucas, the solo genius. Lucas, the face of the future. Lucas, the founder of an AI cybersecurity firm built from scratch. My name? Ghosted from existence. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept reading, hoping maybe, just maybe one piece would mention me, give me credit for the work I poured my soul into. But no, the next morning I tried one last time. I used my work number one he probably didn't have saved. He picked up. Zach? Hey man. Been swamped meant to call, he said, way too casually. You stole my idea, I said. Calm, controlled, but furious. There was a beat of silence, then a laugh. Stole? Come on, man, that's a little dramatic. I'm not joking, Lucas. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. Look, we both knew this would happen eventually. You're brilliant, Zach, but you never pull the trigger. I made it happen. That's what matters. You didn't even tell me. I had to move fast. Timing was critical. Investors don't wait, and I had momentum. And cutting me out completely, that part of the strategy too. Another pause. Then he softened his tone like he was the good guy. There's still a place for you in this, man. We can figure something out. He really thought I'd roll over and thank him for the scraps. Yeah, I said, no thanks. And I hung up. That's when the anger turned to resolve. What Lucas didn't know, what he never bothered to ask, was that months before the project went live, I had filed for patent protection. Every technical schematic, every model version, every line of code was registered in my name, legally airtight. My name was all over the intellectual property. I let him have his little spotlight tour. Then I made my move. I waited 2 months. Didn't contact him, didn't post anything, just kept my head down while Lucas strutted around like the tech messiah. I watched from the sidelines while the press showered him with praise. One article even called him the Steve Jobs of cybersecurity. That one made me laugh. Not in a funny way, more like the I'm about to burn your whole empire down kind of laugh. Then I reached out to a journalist I'd met years ago at a developer conference, Sarah Lynn. She was one of the few people in tech media who actually did the homework, smart, thorough, fair. I emailed her a short message. Hey, I think you might be interested in a story. It's about a startup built on stolen code. Within the hour, she responded, curious, polite, but cautious. I didn't just tell her what happened, I showed her. Emails, Git history, patent documents, meeting notes with timestamps, screenshots of old Slack convos, code diffs with my digital signature. Everything Lucas didn't think I had it. Organized, dated, ready to drop. 3 days later, the article went live. The real brain behind Aegis Mind, a story of stolen code and betrayal in tech. It hit like a freight train. Tech Twitter blew up. LinkedIn was a mess. Forums exploded with debates, accusations, think pieces. Some folks defended Lucas, that's just how startups work, but most didn't. The receipts were too clear, the timeline too damning. That same night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up, already knowing who it was. "What the hell did you do?" he barked. "Just told the truth," I said, sipping tea like I was on vacation. "You can't prove any of it," I smiled. I already did. Click! And just like that, the avalanche started. Investors started backing out. Quietly at first, then publicly. I got wind that 2 major backers had pulled their funding less than 48 hours after the article dropped. Others demanded audits. Journalists started sniffing around deeper, asking for financials, asking ex-employees for quotes. That's when more stuff came to light. Turns out Lucas hadn't just stolen my work. He was lying to his own investors too, overpromising on timelines, inflating performance metrics, spending company money like it was monopoly cash. One of the engineers he brought on early admitted Lucas barely understood the tech. Said he'd sit in meetings nodding along while furiously Googling acronyms afterward. It was a house of cards, and I had just pulled the bottom piece. Within 2 weeks, Aegis Mind was circling the drain. Lawsuits started piling up. 3 different firms filed IP infringement claims. One investor group sued for fraud. The board resigned one by one. The CEO, the visionary, was silent. For a few days anyway. Then Lucas tried to spin it. He did an interview with some podcast, painting himself as a victim of professional jealousy. Said the story was overblown. Called me a disgruntled coder who couldn't handle success. I actually laughed out loud listening to that one. He called me bitter. Like I hadn't spent years building the thing he built his empire on. Like I wasn't the reason any of it even existed. I stayed quiet for a while, didn't respond publicly, didn't engage. But behind the scenes, more people started reaching out to me. Engineers, journalists, a couple of his early collaborators who had also been pushed aside. Turns out I wasn't the only one Lucas had used. He just underestimated the wrong person. Still, as satisfying as it was watching him crumble, there was one thing that ate at me. He never apologized. Not once. Not even a half-acid statement. He just doubled down, like he believed his own lies. That part got under my skin more than I expected. He hadn't just stolen from me, he genuinely thought he deserved it. So I decided to confront him. Face to face. It didn't take much digging to find him. He was still in the city, hiding in plain sight at one of those expensive private clubs downtown, the kind of place where failed CEOs drown their shame in $60 bourbon. I walked in like I belonged there, found him in the corner, alone, staring into a half-empty glass like it might tell him how to fix his life. He didn't see me at first. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. He looked up, and for a second, his face dropped. Surprise, embarrassment, fear, but it disappeared quick, replaced by that same smug calm he always wore like armor. "Zach," he said, "didn't think I'd see you here." I leaned forward. "Did you?" he shrugged. "Figured you might want to talk." "I don't want to talk," I said. "I want one thing." He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "An apology." He actually scoffed. "You ruined me, man. You torched everything. And now you want me to apologize?" "No," I said. "I don't want you to. I want to see if you're capable of it." Silence stretched between us like a wire. He shook his head slowly. "You were never going to take the shot. You'd have kept tinkering forever." I moved. I executed. That's what makes a founder. You erased me. I did what needed to be done. I sat back, jaw tight. If you had just said from the start that you didn't think I was the right guy to lead, we could have figured something out. But instead, you cut me out and called it leadership. He looked away, eyes tired, lips thin. I stood. You asked if I came to gloat. I didn't. I came to see if anything of the guy I used to call my best friend was still in there. I paused, gave him a moment. He didn't say anything. So I turned to leave. Right before I reached the door, he said, "You won." I stopped, turned slightly, then kept walking. I didn't feel like I'd won. Not really. Outside, the Chicago air was cold. Streetlights glinted off damp pavement. People walked by, laughing, yelling, going about their lives. And me? I felt tired. Lucas was finished. The company was dead. My name was clear. I had everything back, but I didn't feel like celebrating. I just felt done. You spend so long chasing justice, you forget what it's like to just live. That night, after I left the club, I didn't go home. I ended up in a tiny diner off Clark Street, one of those places with cracked leather booths and a jukebox that only works when it feels like it. I sat down, ordered a coffee I didn't really want, and just existed for a while. It was quiet in there, too quiet, honestly, which gave me way too much space to think. I had done everything I set out to do. Lucas was out. His reputation shattered, his investors gone, his startup reduced to a punchline in industry Slack threads. I had exposed the truth, reclaimed what was mine, and watched him fall from the pedestal he built on my back. But now there was nothing left to chase. I had spent months, hell, years pouring my soul into that project. Then months more planning the fallout. Revenge is a full-time job, turns out. And when it's done, it leaves a vacuum. The waitress slid the coffee in front of me without a word. I gave her a nod and a tired smile. She didn't ask questions, didn't pretend to care. That small mercy felt weirdly comforting. I stared out the window at the city lights flickering against the dark. My reflection looked like a stranger, someone older, harder. Someone who'd learned not to trust so easily. It wasn't regret I felt, not even guilt, just this slow, creeping sense that I'd lost something too, not the company, not the code, something deeper, something that had tied me and Lucas together before the betrayal. A friendship? A dream? I don't even know. I didn't touch the coffee, just sat there with it, letting the heat warm my fingers while the rest of me stayed cold. The next morning, I started making calls. Not out of desperation, not even ambition, just necessity. If this was going to move forward, I had to decide what came next. First, I got my lawyer to clean up the legal ownership of the tech stack and branding. Everything was already registered in my name, but we needed to untangle what Lucas had tried to sell. Aegis Mind, in name and in code, was mine again. Paperwork made it official. Then came the hard part, figuring out what I actually wanted to do with it. Truth is, I wasn't even sure I wanted to keep the company anymore. It was like inheriting a house where something awful had happened. Yeah, it was legally yours, but could you live in it, sleep in it, build a future in it, knowing what had gone down there? Every time I looked at the logo, every time I booted up the project files, I saw him. I heard his voice echoing in my head, saying things like, "Investors don't care about code," or "You were never going to pull the trigger." Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he wasn't. But either way, I didn't want his shadow on what I was building anymore. So I decided I wouldn't do it alone. I called someone I hadn't talked to in years, Rebecca Tran. We used to work together at a software firm right out of college. She was a beast, sharp, direct, no nonsense. Unlike Lucas, she didn't pretend to be a leader. She was one. She picked up on the second ring. I didn't waste time. I told her what happened, what I had, what I needed. There was a long pause on the other end. Then she said, "Let me buy you lunch, we'll talk." We met at this little Vietnamese spot she liked. Rebecca looked the same: blazer, jeans, low ponytail, eyes like she could see 5 moves ahead. She listened without interrupting as I laid everything out: what Lucas did, what the fallout looked like, where the company stood now. She didn't flinch, didn't even look surprised. When I was done, she leaned back, folded her arms and said, "You've got the bones of something real here, but you need someone who can handle the mess." "Someone like you?" "I don't touch broken things unless they're mine to fix," she said. "You bring me in, I run it my way. You handle the tech. We build it clean. No ghosts, no lies, no Lucas." I didn't even hesitate. Deal. We rebranded first. Aegis Mind became Centricore. Clean, neutral, quiet power. New name, new logo, new website. We scrubbed everything with Lucas's fingerprints off the glass. The tech stayed the same: my code, my architecture, my vision, but now it had room to breathe without the weight of betrayal sitting on its chest. Rebecca handled the front-facing stuff: fundraising, partnerships, PR, and I stayed in the background, where I belonged. I coded, I refined, I built. It was the first time in months I felt like myself again. Some investors passed. Too much baggage, too much risk. But a few believed in the product, especially when we showed them the real performance metrics, the real roadmap, the real people behind it now. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. And that was enough. A few months in, Rebecca called me after a board meeting. "You hear about Lucas?" she asked. "No. What happened?" "Word is, he tried to pitch a new startup, got laughed out of the room. Nobody will touch him. Even his LinkedIn is a ghost town. I didn't say anything for a while, just listened to the silence on the line. Then I said, good, that was it. No fireworks. No dramatic closure. Just good. One morning, about 6 months after our relaunch, I got a text from an unknown number. "You happy now?" No name. Just those 3 words. I stared at it for a moment. Then I typed, "Yeah, I am." Blocked the number. Deleted the thread. Didn't look back. Centricore kept growing. Slowly, steadily. No hype, no smoke and mirrors. Just real work, real results. We hired carefully. Lean team, tight focus, strong ethics. I didn't want another Lucas, ever. The tech world forgot about him pretty quickly. That's how it goes. 1 month, you're a genius. The next, you're a cautionary tale in some founder's keynote speech. As for me, I didn't need revenge anymore. I had peace. I had my name back. I had my work. And for the first time in a long time, I had something better than closure. I had momentum. Months passed. Centricore was steady. Not flashy, not viral, but solid. And honestly, that's all I ever wanted. Something real, something that didn't rely on smoke, mirrors, or backroom charm to survive. The kind of work that doesn't make headlines, but keeps people safe. It felt good. Not perfect. Not some grand redemption arc, but good in the way that waking up without anxiety feels good, in the way that making your own decisions without looking over your shoulder feels good. One night, I stayed late at the office. The city outside was quiet. One of those rare, still evenings when the streets hush themselves and everything feels suspended. I sat at my desk, looking over some back-end updates, when I opened an old folder by accident. Inside were archived docs, early code snapshots, voice memos, meeting notes. From back when it was just me and Lucas, I didn't expect the wave that hit me. Not anger. Not even pain. Just this strange sadness, like finding an old photo of someone who's long gone, a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. You remember what you were building, how hard you believed in them, and in return, you got a knife between the ribs. I listened to one of the voice memos, Lucas talking through a pitch we were planning, joking about the name, hyping me up. We sounded like kids, like we thought the world was just waiting to hand us a win. I closed the file, deleted the folder. Some weight you just don't carry anymore. The funny thing about betrayal is how quiet it gets after. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Little things. Small echoes. You meet someone new, and your first instinct is to flinch, to protect, to hold back the best parts of yourself just in case. Trust becomes a slow thing, but it grows. One of our junior devs, a kid named Miles, came by my desk a few weeks later. Young guy, smart, still had that wide-eyed energy. He looked nervous. "Hey, Zach," he said. "I've been working on a side project, AI for fraud detection in fintech. Was wondering if you'd take a look sometime." I could tell by the way he asked, careful, hesitant, that he wasn't just pitching code. He was handing over a piece of himself, hoping it wouldn't get crushed. I thought about how I could have used someone like that back then. Someone who listened, didn't take. So I nodded. "Yeah, send it over. I'll block out time." His shoulders dropped, like I'd handed him back a piece of safety. And maybe that's the whole point. You go through something like I did, and for a while all you can think about is the person who burned you. You build your revenge, you win, you survive. But the real work, that comes after, the healing, the remembering who you are beneath the scars, the rebuilding of not just a company, but yourself. A year after everything, I got a letter in the mail, real paper, no return address. It was from Lucas. I almost threw it out. Almost. But I opened it. Just 2 lines written in tight, uneven handwriting. I was wrong. I see that now. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say it anyway. That was it. No excuses. No manipulation, just those words. I read it twice, then folded it and put it away in a drawer. Didn't frame it, didn't post it online, didn't text him back. Because that apology wasn't for me to react to. It was for him to say, and for me, the silence that followed that was closure enough. These days, I still keep things simple. Early mornings, strong coffee, clean code, the office is calm, the team is tight. We don't waste time chasing spotlights, we just build. And that's the life I chose. People still ask me if I ever think about him. I don't lie. Yeah, I think about Lucas sometimes, not often, and not with anger anymore, more like curiosity. I wonder what story he tells himself now, whether he thinks losing everything was worth that one shot he took, whether he regrets trading a decade of friendship for 30 minutes of fame. But I don't dwell on it, because I've got better stories to write now. Last week, Rebecca and I sat on the office balcony, watching the sun go down over the river. She turned to me and said, "You ever think about selling this thing?" I thought about it for a minute, then shook my head. "Not yet." She smiled. "Good. You finally look like you belong here." I nodded, because I did. Not in the spotlight, not in the headlines. But here, in this space I fought to protect. In the quiet, in the code, in the people who trusted me enough to build beside me. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about building something no one could steal, because when you've lost everything once and clawed it back with both hands, you learn something important. Success isn't about the money or the glory. It's about peace. And peace is the kind of wealth that no one, not even your best friend turned thief, can ever take from you again. Story 3. I was halfway through making a cup of tea when my phone buzzed and old contact, Margaret Benson, popped up. I hadn't seen that name in years. We used to be neighbours, back when life still felt semi-normal. I stared at the notification. A video message. No context, no greeting. Just a short line, "I'm so sorry about your parents." I can't believe what I saw today. Weird. My stomach tensed and I tapped the play button. It opened to a video of a church one I recognised immediately. Street Delaney's. I hadn't set foot in that place since I was a teenager, back when my family still dragged me there on holidays for the illusion of wholesomeness. The video zoomed in on two people at the front of the sanctuary. My parents. My mum in black lace, dabbing at her eyes like a community theatre actress. My dad, stiff in a grey suit, reading something off a folded paper. Behind them, a casket. Next to it, a blown-up framed picture of me. And then I heard it, my dad's voice, solemn and low. She was always a complicated soul, but we loved her. We did everything we could. We hope she finds peace now. They were giving my eulogy. I dropped the spoon I was stirring. It clattered against the tile. I wasn't dead. I was very much alive, standing barefoot in my apartment kitchen with shaking hands and a mouth that suddenly couldn't form words. I rewound the video, played it again. Still me, still dead. At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of twisted mistake, but the longer I watched, the more rehearsed it looked. No real tears, no shaky voices, just a production, a performance. I kept asking myself, why would they do this? But deep down, I already knew. Let me back up a bit. My name is Rachel Lynn. I'm 29. Or at least I was until my parents decided to announce my expiration. We hadn't spoken in over 3 years, not since they disowned me and kicked me out of their lives. According to them, I was the failure, the disappointment, the embarrassment that needed to disappear. Why? Because I took the fall for my younger sister, Cassidy. She was the golden child, the princess, the one who could light the family business's money on fire and still be handed the matches with a smile. When over $70,000 mysteriously vanished from one of the shared accounts, guess who they blamed? Not Cassidy, their precious Instagram perfect baby. Nope, it was me. And when I begged them to look at the transaction records, when I showed them the bank notifications, the response I got was chilling. My mum said, flat out, better one ruined daughter than two. My dad just looked away and muttered, "You embarrassed us. We can't have that." The next morning, my apartment keys stopped working. My bank account was frozen. Every call I made went straight to voicemail. I messaged family friends, old neighbours. No one responded. The silence was absolute, like I never existed. So I did the only thing left. I vanished. Took a job overseas. Changed my number. Started over. Quietly, cautiously. For 3 years, I lived like a ghost, always half waiting for anyone to realise something wasn't right. But no one came. No one checked. Until that video. At first, I thought it had to be some kind of bureaucratic screw-up. But when I tried logging into my old email account to investigate, I got this message. This account has been deactivated due to reported death of user. Excuse me? After digging through records and jumping through a few digital hoops, I saw it with my own eyes, my name, marked deceased, officially filed certed hashtag D80,471. I'd been legally declared dead. I couldn't breathe. My knees hit the floor. I felt like the air had been ripped from my lungs. What kind of person fakes their own child's death? What kind of family does that? Still, I needed confirmation, someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. So I did what desperate people do. I called my aunt. She used to sneak me butterscotch candies during holiday dinners. She picked up on the second ring. "Hi, Aunt Linda. It's me. It's Rachel. Silence. Then the line went dead. I called back, blocked, tried my cousins. One responded with a thumbs-up emoji and never replied again. Another said, "Who is this?" and then nothing, except for one, my youngest cousin, Noah. He messaged back, "Rachel, are you really alive?" "Yes." "What the hell is going on?" After a long pause, he typed, "They told everyone you died. A car accident. Overseas. Said it was too late to bring you back. Cremation. Closed casket." It was. A whole thing. I didn't even own a car overseas. I dug into every file. I had my passport, visa records, rental agreements, pay stubs, even the old photos I had from my time abroad. None of it matched their story, because their story wasn't real. But here's the part that finally broke me. I found Cassidy's wedding photos. That same church, that same family. My aunt, my cousins. All smiles and champagne. And in the background, my father giving a toast. The caption? "To the one daughter who always made us proud." I wasn't just disowned. I'd been replaced. And when I checked the family trust documents, yes, I still had copies. I saw it, my entire inheritance. College funds, startup savings, all redirected, transferred, gone to Cassidy. 6 months after my death, that was it. That was the last straw. They wanted me gone. They were about to find out just how alive I really was. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office with a stack of documents under my arm and about 4 hours of sleep under my belt. I hadn't even showered. Just pulled my hair back, put on the same jeans from the day before, and went in. Didn't matter what I looked like. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was there to resurrect myself. The attorney, younger than me maybe, looked up from his desk when I walked in. "I need to challenge a death certificate," I said, dropping the folder in front of him. He blinked like I'd asked him to perform an exorcism. "You, what?" "I'm not dead," I said, "but legally I am. And I need that changed." I laid out everything. Passport stamps, rental history, pay slips from the cafe in Prague, tax filings from Germany, even the health insurance I'd paid while living abroad. I had it all. He flipped through the stack in silence for a minute, then looked up at me and said, "You've got a hell of a case." I nodded. "I know." And then I added, because it needed to be said out loud, they did this on purpose. See, I didn't just wake up to a fake funeral and decide to go nuclear. This wasn't revenge born out of pride. It was clarity, pure, sobering clarity. They buried me, for real. They forged a government document and created a death that never happened. Why? So Cassidy could take everything that was supposed to be mine. And the worst part, they did it so cleanly, so neatly, so publicly. They hosted a memorial. They told people I died in a car accident. Overseas. Closed casket, they said, to spare people the pain. There wasn't a body because I wasn't dead. There wasn't an accident because it never happened. But the story sold because no one questioned it. Not when it came from them. People believed it because they looked like the grieving parents, the devastated sister, the shattered family trying to move on. It was a play. They wrote the script, cast themselves as the victims, and gave me the role of the tragedy. I should have been furious, but mostly I felt calm, cold even. That kind of betrayal, it doesn't boil over, it freezes. I spent the rest of that week filing motions and affidavits with the lawyer, preparing the fraud report, getting ready to petition the court to reverse the legal death. Every paper I signed felt like breathing again. Every document I handed over felt like stitching a piece of myself back together. And then, Like something out of a bad movie. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just one sentence. They're holding a memorial for you this Sunday at Street Delaney's. No name, no signature. Just that. Was it Noah? Was it Margaret again? I didn't know. Didn't matter. Because that was the final green light. They were throwing a memorial for me, a second one. A 3-year anniversary, maybe. A look at us, still grieving performance. I knew I had to be there. Not to yell, not to fight, but to walk in. Alive. Sunday came. I stood across the street from Street. Delaney's in a black coat and dark sunglasses, like some kind of spy in a B movie. The parking lot was packed. Everyone showed up. Relatives I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. Church friends. Old neighbours. Even my 5th grade piano teacher, all dressed in black. All there to mourn a ghost. I waited until they were inside. Until the organ music started and the fake tears were flowing. Then I crossed the street. The wooden doors creaked when I opened them. Loud, deliberate. A full stop to the quiet inside. Light spilled into the sanctuary behind me like a movie spotlight. Heads turned. Slowly at first, then all at once. Gasps, whispers. A dropped phone clattered on the floor. I walked down the centre aisle, like it belonged to me, because honestly, it kind of did. This was my funeral, after all. Up front, my father froze, mid-sentence. Holding a piece of paper with his hand trembling slightly now, Cassidy's grip on her wine glass slipped. A splash of champagne hit her shoes. My mother made a sound I can only describe as a cartoon faint. Like she'd been waiting for the moment someone yelled, "Cue the drama." She dropped onto the pew. Out cold. I kept walking. Click, click, click. My boots on marble. I stopped right in front of the altar under my own framed photo and turned around. Then I smiled. Not a smirk. Not smug. Just calm. Alive. I heard I died, I said, voice low but clear. Figured I'd show up and clear the air. No one moved. I took a folder out of my coat, thick, stamped official. These are my documents proof I never died. I've been working overseas, paying taxes, leasing apartments. I've got more paperwork than this entire church has candles. The silence was unreal. You could hear people breathing. I wasn't in a car crash. There was no cremation, no tragedy, just a family who didn't want me around. I turned my head, locking eyes with my dad. You told the world I was dead, so you could move everything, every dollar, every account into Cassidy's name. Cassidy tried to say something, but I cut her off. Save it. She flinched. Good. This isn't a scene, I said. This is a correction. You held a funeral without a body. Now the body's here. Someone finally pulled out their phone. Started recording. The little red dot blinking. Perfect. I looked at them, all my cousins, my aunts, my mum, pale and trembling in the pew. Even the priest looked like he wanted to run. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away. I let the silence settle like dust. And then I left. Just walked out. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just turned my back on the whole room full of people who once swore they loved me. Outside, the sun felt warmer than it had in a long time. I took off the sunglasses, stuffed them in my coat pocket, and just kept walking. The church bells rang behind me. But they weren't for me this time. I didn't sleep that night, not from nerves, but from release, the kind of quiet that settles in after a storm's passed, and you realize the walls are still standing. The silence didn't scare me this time. It felt earned. By Monday morning, my lawyer had already heard from the courthouse. Apparently, footage of me crashing my own funeral had made its rounds. Someone uploaded it to YouTube, blurred faces, poor lighting, shaky camera, but the caption said it all. Woman declared dead by family walks into her own memorial. Comments blew up. People speculating, analysing, calling it surreal, heartbreaking, like a movie. A few thought it was staged. I didn't care. Because now it was real in a way no death certificate could deny. They wanted me erased. I turned myself into evidence. That week, the fraud investigation kicked off. Not just the forged death paperwork, which on its own is already criminal, but the money trail. My trust fund, the inheritance transfers, the business account logs. Turns out once you're marked dead, it's surprisingly easy for others to siphon off whatever's left in your name, especially if no one questions it, especially if the people handling the paperwork are your family. The lawyer laid it out like a checklist. One by one, we filed motions. Revocation of the fraudulent death certificate. Civil complaint for financial misappropriation. Request for an internal audit of the family trust. Petition to freeze any further fund movements. They didn't see it coming. That was the best part. They had been so sure, so convinced that I'd just stay gone, wherever they imagined I was. They probably pictured me dead in a ditch, or broke in a hostel overseas, too scared or broken to come back. But I wasn't scared, I wasn't broken. I was rebuilding, and this time I didn't need anyone's permission. A few days later, Cassidy tried calling me. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, though. Rachel, please, we didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we talk? I'm sorry. No, she wasn't. She was sorry she got caught. I didn't call back. My parents didn't reach out, not directly. But my lawyer got a message from theirs. Something about a misunderstanding, and how they acted on bad information, and didn't mean any harm. Sure, accidentally burying your daughter while funneling her life savings to your favourite child, no harm there. We didn't respond. Let the investigation speak for us. Honestly, I didn't want revenge anymore. I wasn't chasing court drama just to watch them burn. I just wanted the truth on paper the same way they put my death on paper. And I got it. 6 weeks later, I sat in the back of the courtroom as the judge finalised the reversal of my death certificate. They read my name, my real name, my legal status switched from deceased to active. There wasn't applause or music or some dramatic swell of emotion, just a stamp, a signature, a quiet kind of victory. I was alive again, officially, and this time nobody else got to write the script. Fallout came in waves. Cassidy lost her place on the board of the family company after the audit found financial discrepancies. Nice way of saying she'd been helping herself to more than just my trust fund. My dad's name ended up on a few legal filings too. Negligent misrepresentation, they called it. It wasn't prison time serious, but it was reputation ruining. Mum tried to play victim online, posted a photo of our old house with some caption about mourning all over again. She turned off comments by noon. My cousin Noah messaged me again. Honestly, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry I didn't ask questions when I should have. I told him it's okay. Not everyone is brave enough to question a whole family tree. I hadn't been either for a long time. Now I live in a new city, small place, quiet. I teach English part-time and work at a bookstore on weekends. Nothing flashy, nothing viral, just mine. I rent a little apartment with soft lighting and too many books and a balcony where I drink tea and watch the wind move through the trees like old stories being whispered across generations. My friends here don't know the full story. They don't need to. To them, I'm just Rachel, the woman who brings lemon bars to book club and always remembers birthdays. They don't know what it means for me to be remembered at all. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes people ask me if I ever wanted to go back talk to my family. make peace, rebuild what was broken. But there was never peace to begin with. They didn't just hurt me, they rewrote me, and I had to fight just to exist again. So no, I didn't come back for closure, I came back for truth. And now that I have it, I don't look back. If you ask me what it feels like to attend your own funeral and walk away breathing, I tell you it's strange. Like being reborn without anyone celebrating. Like coming home to a house that's gone. But I'd also tell you it's worth it, because once they bury you, once they throw the dirt and walk away, you learn how to grow in the dark, and you bloom anyway,